Hello, so in this video I'm going to basically show you how to set up the I2C and I'm going to be using a sensor called MPU6050, which is just an accelerometer, gyroscope, and it has a built-in temperature sensor. The way I have it set up is super basic and it's just reading the 3 accelerometer axis. This video is more to show you how to set up the I2C and some of the common pitfalls that I've come across while setting it up. So the first one I want to actually highlight is here. So in the schematic, whenever you go to enable the I2C, for this board anyway, the pins for me automatically went to PA15 and PA14, and when I went to boot up the board and debug it, it gave me an error saying target not responding. So the reason that was happening is because, if I can find it, so see here, PA14 is linked to the serial wire debug clock. I think it's a serial wire debug clock. So if you come down here, you can see TCK is tied to the serial wire debug clock. So basically, if you're trying to put this as an I2C pin, it's not going to work because it's going to interfere with your debugger, and I mean you can't debug. So the way to get around that is, if you look at the data sheet, you'll see that each of these pins has multiple functions, or even if you just like right click on it, or is it right click? No, just click on it. So this one has loads of different functions, this PA15. So this is just, if you have this chip on its own that you're designing a PCB for, you can set all these up whatever way you want. It's just because this is a dev board, the pin's already tied to something, so that's something you need to be careful for. But if you look here, you can see it says there's a UART RX. It also can do I2C serial clock. But luckily I was able to pick this pin as well, I2C serial clock, PB 6 and 7 for the I2C setup. So to set that up, all I did was come into the IOC file, connectivity, I2C. Now this board, or this chip, only has one I2C peripheral available. You may see others. Just pick whatever one works for you and doesn't break whenever you try and debug it. You'll know if it does because you'll try and debug and it'll just keep saying target not responding. If you select your pins, and then if you come in here, you'll probably be on this page. So I keep all of this the same. I never touched any of these. You can change the speed of it if you want. It's not that critical for this application anyway. Your mileage may vary depending on what you're trying to do. Then there's other settings which I don't care about, and then the last one we do care about is this GPIO pull up. So you want to make sure this is set, and this is just part of like the I2C protocol. So yeah, I2C, the way we have it set up is in blocking mode, so we're not using interrupts or anything like that here. It's just a really basic version of I2C. And then once that's done, what you can do is generate the code, and what you'll see is where did it go? Oh, there it is. The I2C handle will be generated and you'll get an MX I2C in it. I've added some functionality for this specific example, but that'll all be on GitHub. So if we go into the I2C, I've made it like an extra module on the back of like the structure in your project video. So I've made an extra module. Where did it? Peripherals. So it's just an I2C, and all it is basically an initialization function, a TX function, and an RX function. And in each of these, it just calls the HAL code, and it just does some basic checks and returns if it's okay or not. So if we go back to our main, this init function just passes in the UART or the I2C handle, and the handle is then stored in like a local variable, a local handle in here, and then this can be used like in each of these, which is exactly where it's used. Then once that's done, it just, you set that to true and return it, and then that means that when we go to try and use these, we can actually use them because the module's been initialized. If we go and try and use the tx and rx functions when the module isn't initialized, it'll just return false that it didn't work okay. And then from here we have the I2C tx and I2C rx. So I initially began to use HAL I2C transmit functionality, but for consistency reasons, you'll see other examples using this HAL I2C memory write and memory read, and it's just it's more simple in terms of, well, there's only one function that you need to call, and it's probably easier to visualize what's going on from here. Whereas if you use the HAL transmit and HAL receive, if you go to read, for example, you have to send out using the HAL transmit function and then read from the HAL receive function. Whereas this HAL read just goes, okay, give me the device address, register address, and give me a place to store the data, and that's it. So if we look at the HAL I2C write, and what this does is I give it the handle, give it the device address, then the register address that I want to write to, the length of that address, and I believe it's in bytes, so it's just 1 byte, the data I want to write to that, and the data length. So I've passed that in here in case you want to write 5 bytes of data instead of just 1, and then the I2C max timeout, so I've just set it to 100 milliseconds, and then once that transmits it, it'll return, and if it's okay, then we'll say it transmitted okay and return that. And then the read function is not too dissimilar, so it's just the read equivalent. You give it the handle, the device address, the register address that we want to read from, a place to store the data that we've read from the register, and the length of the register address and the length of the data we want to read, and the max timeout. And then we just check the return type. If it's okay, then we know that we've read it okay. So that's basically the long and short of the I2C stuff. So this is all well and good, but like me telling you this and saying, oh, this all works, isn't really, it's not that useful. So what I've done is I had a sensor lying about, and it's an accelerometer sensor, and it's called an MPU6050. If you Google it, you'll find drivers, you'll find other people using this sensor. I've set it up in such a basic form just to read the accelerometer data, the X, Y, and Z axis, and it reads a Who Am I register. So if you look at sensors like this, there's a Who Am I register, and it basically is a nice handy way of checking that you're able to read from the device okay. So it's got a register address in hexadecimal of 75. So all you do is read this register, and the data will return. So the default value is 68, and so if I go and read this register, I should be able to read back 68, and that'll like confirm that the device is working. So in the initialization function, that's like the first thing I do. So if I go in, I've made a function get who am I, and what this does is basically reads the who am I register, and it checks is the register value equal to the who am I value, and if it is, then we know that the device is there, it's connected, and we can talk to it. And then all these other functions are basically getting the X, Y, and Z data, reading from the registers, reading and writing the registers, and then the setup in the init function. I don't want to go through all this, to be honest, because the whole point is just I2C, and it's not about this sensor. So yeah, I can show you that working, and I'll just program it. Oh god, that didn't look good. Conflicting types. Yep. That should be it. So I've been running it. Anyway, hold on. I have been running it, but I'll just rerun it. So basically what happens is it goes and gets the X, Y, and Z data every second, and what tends to happen is my cables for this are crap, so sometimes they disconnect and show 0 like they're doing there, and that's just me holding it like upright. So the Z axis is if the device was facing with the chip facing up the way towards the sky, the Z axis is going down through it, and then if I twist it to, well, I suppose there's not really much point in me just explaining what I'm doing, but yeah, that's basically reading the X, Y, and Z axis. So all it does is every 250 milliseconds it reads each of those registers, and the way it works is those registers they're called like high and low bytes, and it's basically split two 8-bit digits, and then what you do is you read them out, format them in such a way that they end up in signed 16-bit values, and then you can print them. So I can show you that. So I've done that in the main, so whenever everything's okay and we check that the device is set up correctly and whatever, then you go down here into this while loop and plot accelerometer axis. So initialize a few buffers and a buffer length variable, then we call these functions get X, Y, get Z axis as well. The variables, just store them in there. SNPrintf, which we used in the I2C video, just formats the string and takes in the integer input, puts it in the string for us, and then lastly we print out the string over the UART. So if I show you what one of these, this x-axis function is doing, basically it reads the lower half of the register and the upper half of the register, stores them in their own variables. Then the way it works is if you have, I can do this with the calculator actually, the Windows calculator is actually very good for this. So if I have a lower half, so these bottom 8 bits are the lower half, and these other 8 bits are the top half. So what happens is we read the lower half first, which is just, let's say it's maxed out, and what we do is shift it by 8 bits, and what that does is it moves these, it depends what way you shift them like, but we shift them 8 bits to the left, and then what happens is it actually moves these up, and then these are all set to 0. This value's preserved in an upper byte, but these lower values are preserved, or not preserved, they're reset to 0. I'll just show you what I mean. So if we shift it to the left by 8 bits, then our values just shifted up and preserved, and then these are all set to 0. And then what you can do then is or the bit. So I do FF, then what I've done there is set them all to 1. So I'll just do that again with a different example so it's a bit clearer. So I'll do FF for the upper byte, shift it 8, and then for the lower byte, let's just say it's CC. So I need to OR it CC, and then you can see there that it's just added them on to this this lower byte, and that's basically what I'm doing here in code. You have to read each of these registers individually, and then do that, and then whenever that's done, that's basically the x-axis data ready for to be returned. So again, that's just the way these data registers are set out. So the upper register, lower register. You can get temperature and gyroscope and stuff for this sensor, but I've just set up super basic just to read these, just to show you the I2C working. This code will be available on GitHub. And is there anything else? There's one more thing actually I need to mention. So for some reason, whenever I was doing this, I was getting problems where only this sort of data was getting printed, or sometimes it was this, or sometimes it was this, even though the string was always this value. And this is basically a UART problem. I'm not sure what the UART problem is, but I know that a delay fixes it after we initialize the UART. And the reason I know that is because I was Googling the problem and couldn't figure out for the life of me what it was. And this guy, TDK, the guru, has just said it's probably something to do with the TX line low at the start. And if you give it a delay, it should like allow it to become ready to be used. Again, not sure why that's the case. Maybe that is the why. It's just that it's just one of them things. But yeah, that's something to note when you're using this UART. That can happen at the start. I don't believe there are any other things that I need to talk about. It's super easy to get this set up with. Hopefully my code is easy to follow, and hopefully it's commented and pretty self-explanatory. I hope I've cleared this up well. I don't think there's anything else that I need to talk about. That's another thing as well. It's not as easy to code stuff like this up live because there's a lot of trial and error involved, which is why I've decided to continue doing it in this format with all the code sort of ready to go and me explaining it in hopefully a somewhat not confusing way. But yeah, that's me. I'm gonna go. Okay, bye.